Hello my loyal companions, welcome back to the channel. Today's video we're going to be revamping the season 2 tier list. After the time to kill changes, everything changed as well, and so we're going to be revamping the tier list, having a look at what rogues are best currently within Rogue Company Demolition. This is not a strikeout tier list, this is for Demolition specifically, and looking at the meta within the game right now. If you do go on to enjoy the video or you just want to see daily educational Rogue Company content, make sure you drop a like and subscribe to the channel. But for now, let's get into it. So you guys know when it comes to my tier list, I like to separate exactly what each tier means, so there's absolutely no confusion about what I mean. And again, this is Demolition specific, not for strikeout or other modes, it's just for ranked Demolition. So my tiers are split up as follow. We have the S tier, which are your pick or banned every single game kind of rogues. These are going to be your most important rogues, the ones who are just flourishing right now in the meta and are basically unbeatable, so you really want to pick or ban them all the time. We have A tier rogues who are heavy meta, whereas they do a great job, have great strategic elements to them that benefit the game currently, but are just not at that OP kind of level that some of these S tier rogues are at. We have B tier rogues, which I put as player dependent, so they can be really good or they can be not so good depending on the player's ability. So they're kind of in this mid tier of it depends on how good that player is to make them work. We have C tier rogues, who are those who are situational in that they're either really good at one specific thing or on only a few maps, and so they don't hit the heavy meta that some of these other rogues do, but they're still good picks. And then we have D tier, which formerly was unusable rogues, but I've changed that now just to be rogues who are not so unique in the current meta. So they don't really do anything special or anything that's valuable in the current state of the game. As usual, if you're not interested in hearing the explanation for each of these rogues and why I've put them where I've put them, then you can skip to this timestamp right here to move along in the video and just get a completed tier list. Kicking us off though is going to be our guy Anvil. He is the master of retakes, and that particular strategy, the retake strategy of letting the enemy team plant the bomb and using this shield to defuse behind, is still so good in the meta. Whilst there are more counterplay options currently, it still has a massive threat and massive potential of being useful. And Anvil, along with his perk set, his C4, his trophy systems, just provides to be a really good defender. Whilst his weapons are nothing special, they're still more than good enough in terms of their time to kill to have an impact. And therefore, Anvil is in a great spot right now, as always, and is going to be sitting up in the A tier. Chaac comes in next, and he's actually the kind of direct opposite to Anvil, who wants to sit back and wait for a play to happen before he moves. Chaac is the playmaker. He's extremely forgiving for newer players because of his overheal, and for good players, he can use that overheal, gain that additional health, to really push an advantage 1v1 easily, or even extend to a 1v2. The flashbangs are really helpful, and if you're an aggressive player, Chaac is definitely the way to go for you. He, in a meta sense, is sitting really nicely at the moment. His weapons are more than good enough at competing in what Chaac wants to do, and so he's going to be sitting up in the A tier as well. Dahlia, with the increased time to kill, was an S tier rogue. Before that, I didn't think of her too highly. I've kind of changed my mind. Even with the TTK being reverted, I still think Dahlia is one of the best rogues in the game. Whether you use her MXR and hit headshots, which is the only way to make that gun viable, or whether you beam with the objection and stick with the pistol for longer range, Dahlia is super meta. Her revive and ability to link with a teammate to offer so many good situations, along with being arguably the best medic within the game, means she is always going to have a place. And we've always seen her have a place, no matter how strong or weak her weapons are. And therefore she is going to stay in S tier. She's just really great. And I think she's going to hold that spot for a very long time until another support comes out that can match her impact in the game. Dallas is up next, and in my opinion, he is one of the hardest rogues to play from a gunplay kind of standpoint. I think his weapons with the Devotion and HRM are two of the most skilled weapons in the game to pull off effectively, and if you can and you don't miss shots, they are extremely good weapons as well. I also do love his ability, that target finder, to snap and then uses passive recharge after you get it down to get another snap. You can really move through enemy teams and gain valuable information. Good Dallases that use the padded steps and the Stalker effectively and can hit their shots can really tear up a game, but a bad Dallas who isn't hitting their shots or doesn't know how to position to get the maximum benefit off a reveal, they're going to be a bit suffering. And honestly, this is why for me, he's going to be placed in the B tier as one of these rogues who is kind of situational depending on the player skill. Dima comes up next, and when I think of Dima, I just kind of think meh. He doesn't really do anything super unique, and Kestrel has been for a while just a better version of what he wants to do. Whilst I still think he has a place on maps such as Lockdown and High Castle, I don't think he extends to enough maps and enough situations to be super viable. I just don't think in the current meta, where Tenacity has now got buffed once again, he is going to be in a great spot. I do think, therefore, he's going to be in the D tier for me as a rogue who just doesn't fit in currently, doesn't have enough to him, and weapons, whilst good, are not enough to make it game-changing for him. Glitch comes in next, and with Season 2, he got a bunch of buffs that did carry over despite the revert of time to kill. His hack ability is now so much more useful, and I really do like a glitch on my team sometimes, especially if we're going into heavy defensive comps such as Mack, Anvil, Trench, or Vi. That EMP really allows a window of opportunity for your team to move and do something, and high skill glitches who can play off the padded steps flank as well are really good. He also has flashbangs for team coordinated pushes and a Semtex to get into a sticky situation. I really wanted to put glitch in B tier here as one that kind of depends on the player's skill, but after thinking about it, he actually is a little bit too situational for that. He's only really good on a certain few maps, and with his high skill cap, I don't think he's pulled off well enough by most people to be super viable. And therefore, I'm actually going to put him down in the C tier, though I do think he has a place in the right hand. Kestrel comes in next, and she is the best rogue in the game. There's nothing really much more to say about that. Her ability, her survivability, her flank pressure, and her weapon being one of the best in the game in its own right means that she is an absolute dominant force. Kestrel is a must pick for every map, and she's going to be S tier. Lancer comes in next, and if you watch a recent video of mine, you will see me absolutely tear up as Lancer when she wasn't banned. Now, I know she's banned a lot, and you may argue that she could be S tier based on my explanation. However, if we're being realistic, most people don't pull off Lancer well enough to warrant that kind of position. Lancer in Strikeout is the queen. She will dominate easy, and she's basically a free pick for easy wins. In Demolition, though, it takes far more brainpower, far more thought, and far more active awareness by the player themselves to be able to flank correctly, to be able to win those 1v1s properly, and to actually have an impact as Lancer. And therefore, I'm going to put her in the B tier as a rogue who is very, very player dependent. Mack comes in next as the newest rogue to join Rogue Company in Season 2, and he actually had a really big hit when he came in with a new time to kill. His weapon was a monster, and I put him up in the A tier, borderline S. However, with the time to kill revert, he kind of fell out a little bit. His weapon is still really good, and in respawn modes, I think his passive and weapon all kind of combined, and his general just kind of tankiness and what he tries to do is really good. However, when it comes to Demolition, I think he has a very high skill cap. I think his ability is really hard for players to use correctly, or it relies on the enemies to be not so good, and that's never really a kind of assumption you want to go into Demolition with. But I do think he still has a place. I still think he's good. I just think he's very, very player dependent to pull off, one, knowing the mechanics of the weapon right, but also using that ability correctly. And so he'll be also placed in that B tier. Phantom is up next, and recently, as you know, I've been really in favor of Phantom. I think her snipe potential, her pick potential is absolutely insane. I think you can completely carry games purely off hitting those snipes, as we've all seen from people in our games. Those snipers are just annoying, and most of the time we call them hackers because they ruin our games, and that's fair. However, from a Demolition meta point of view, whilst Phantom is really good with her sort of intel playstyle of using sticky sensors and nanosmoke and the grenade for picks, I think she has a very high skill cap to use properly. I think people need to use the sniper if you want to use her properly. If you're using the Nightshade, there's better options for that. So I think Phantom is arguably a sniper only if you're really considering her, and that has a very high skill cap to it. So she's going to be placed in the B tier as a situational rogue dependent on player skill. Ronin is up next, and Ronin was popping off on the old time to kill, but now that it's been reverted, her guns are a little bit lackluster once again. Whilst I think they're both good in their class, and actually the SLC is probably one of the best in the class, she as a rogue doesn't do anything unique to someone like Kestrel, who kind of does what she wants to do better with a better weapon. So Ronin is in this weird sort of spot where she's good and she is one of the best rogues for newer players. In fact, I'll still say she's the best rogue for newer players to learn the game on. And she can be really good when played at a high level. She's just not super amazing across the board in Rogue Company right now. In terms of the meta of Rogue Company, you're not going to see her a lot. Her passive isn't that useful. His Talon isn't that useful right now. And so she's going to be placed in the C tier as a very situational or flex pick rogue, or just one of these rogues that people who one-trick her will play all the time. Saint comes in next, and Saint's two weapons are absolute beamers if you can use them right. The M4 itself has absolutely no skill cap to it. It's the easiest weapon to use in the game. It has no recoil. The Mamba has a much higher skill cap, but does beam and does reward that very nicely. I think Saint is in a pretty good spot now because he can compete with Dahlia for that medic position, and you may choose him for these longer range maps. And therefore he's going to be placed in the A tier as a good rogue, and particularly a good defensive rogue for a medic. Scorch is up next, and while she is one of the best 1v1 duelists because she is purely designed to win a solo gunfight, I think her range really limits her in the current meta, which is a little bit more AR DMR focused. She is very tanky, which does help her into grenades, but realistically, the team play and team shoot and the bounce up of utility, like the kind of stacking of utility, is really high right now, and she does suffer because of these things. Personally, I don't see a great place for Scorch in the current meta, and she's going to be the only rogue that I'm placing in D tier right now, as one who's just super underwhelming and really isn't performing to the highest level. Seeker is up next, and Seeker's been in a really solid spot ever since he came into the game. He is arguably the best intel rogue because his reveal with the arrow is so good, it recharges and gives you additional information. He also has sticky sensors and a one-hit bounce nade throughout the majority of the rounds of the game. His Sahara is also a really good weapon, and so is the Aaron if you use it correctly, by the way. They both have their place, but the Sahara is the preferred one. With a great perk set including Lifeline should you need another medic in your team to get some revives off, or whether you want to go a bit more selfish and go Life Drain for a more duelist kind of playstyle, Seeker kind of hits all the marks, and that's why he's seen so frequently in high-level comp play, and honestly why he's going to be S tier in this tier list. Sigrid is up next, and she has been tearing up the scene currently. People are afraid of this rogue because she is so good at an isolated 1v1 and can do so much with that shield that is so obnoxious and hard to deal with. I absolutely love Sigrid. I have for a long time, and with the recent changes that have made her a little bit more usable, she has really come into the meta very well. She is super borderline S tier, but I am going to place her in the A tier because I don't think you're going to be seeing her all the time unless it's on the banning side of the map. But I do think Sigrid is really good. She just has a little bit of a skill cap there where you need to be kind of good to use her properly. But if you are better than your opponent, you're going to really dominate with her. Talon is up next, and Talon is also in a bit of a weird spot, very similar to Ronin. He has good weapons, good survivability with tenacity and life drain. He's a C4 and a flashbang, which so many other rogues have as part of their kit, and he kind of combines a lot of that into one. But he's just a little bit lackluster. He's not the best intel rogue with his actual form of intel. He's not the best rogue with his weapons. And he's just overall not amazing in his current state. There's better options for him. And so he's only very situational on maps where that radar dart could be so useful, such as Canal's attack. The fact he's so situational for me means that I can't say he's heavy meta, but I still think he's good, and I'll use him from time to time, especially with that Deadeye, which is a beamer right now. I'm going to put him in the C tier as a rogue who's just not hitting quite the same anymore. Next up is Fixer, and I have been on the no, Fixer isn't that OP train for a very long time. I've played with him a little bit more now. I have seen how he's performing in the game currently, and I've tested my own form of counterplay to him. And whilst I still think he's very easily countered, I think people who prioritize and use their utility to counter him specifically are going to do more than well against him, and I think picking up a Phantom into him is really good. But the issue with Fixer is that when there's a Fixer on the enemy team, if you haven't banned him out, which is very likely, you're going to have to play Fixer into him if you want a very easy counter. But again, it's kind of this hit or miss. For me though, Fixer is going to be S tier. I think he is picked or banned every single game. I think he has good dominant presence, and I think his kit allows for that status right now. Although please do not sleep on the fact he is counterable if you are smart and use your utility right into him. Trench is up next, and weapon-wise, he's not in a great spot. His weapons are kind of hard to use effectively and have a bit of a skill cap to them, needing headshots to be weaved in there to be super effective. But his utility is what makes or breaks him. Those trip mines are so annoying right now since they were added back to him. I think he's actually doing really well with them. Barbed wire and the trophy system, of course, getting double gadgets up because of his passive means he's in a great spot in terms of utility usage. And if you're not running a glitch into a trench, he can be really annoying and just lock down an entire site by himself. Just due to his pure presence on the map when he is there and how frequent he is in the meta with a Dahlia link for that double grenade, he is going to be A tier as a heavy meta rogue that you're going to want to be using if you need a great solid defensive option. Last but not least is Vi, and Vi is in a really weird state. She is not the solid defender, S tier defender that she once was, but she still has a lot of capability to be that. Just in the current meta, she doesn't feel as strong because nades can kill her now that she has tenacity removed. So she's just in this like weird little spot. I think she's still really good. I think that good Vi's will dominate an enemy team, but they have to be good and actually perform in that way. I really debated the position of Vi here. I kind of want her in S tier, but then thinking about it, she could kind of be in B tier, but I kind of settled on A tier for her as a rogue that if you know how to pull off and you know how to use that utility right, you're going to win loads of your games and carry with her alone. But it does require that little bit of a skill gap, but not enough to warrant her on the same level as Lance or Phantom. Alright guys, that is every single rogue gone over and their position on the tier list explained. If you need to have a bit more information on them, please head back into the video to see the exact reasoning behind each rogue if you have a question. And then if you have any other questions, guys, leave it in the comments down below what you think of this tier list, what you think of some of the rogues, whether you agree with some of my choices and the reasoning behind it. Okay then guys, that takes us to the end of the video, and if you did enjoy, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. You can also come follow me on twitch.tv/RADTHARGAMING, see live gameplay commentaries, guides, Q&As, and playing with viewers. I've also just launched a second channel, by the way, guys, which is Radthar Gaming. So go check that out. There'll be a bit more personal stuff on there, some vlogs, some YouTube shorts, and also some other gameplays, maybe for some other games. So if you are interested, go check that channel out too. I will set up an Instagram and a TikTok. Should you want to go follow those too? Because why not do more content? It's for you guys, right? All the links get needed down in the description below. But for now, I hope you have a fantastic day. And remember, be loyal, be brave, be relentless, and I'll catch you in the next video. Wow.